Welcome back viewers. In today's video we are going to install the Debian Linux, any of the desktops from the Debian Linux using the desktop live ISO. So I have already downloaded the Debian live desktop live ISO. So let us start with the installation. So we will use the Debian 11 template. As usual, you have to do the all usual settings, do the RAM size, the VDD size. And now you can see here the live ISO is getting started up. So the Debian live is there. You have got option to change the language. Your option to boot into the Debian live 32-bit. The Debian live. Okay, so all Debian live is itself 32-bit. We have downloaded. So we will check out the 32-bit version of the Debian live. Okay, so we are trying to understand what is available in the Debian download section. So we have downloaded the different types of ISOs. So the first ISO was the live desktop ISO. So it is 32-bit, and we can now go and test the 32-bit ISO. So it will be a good change every time we test the 64-bit ISOs. This time let us test the 32-bit ISO. So it's a good change. There are options. You can see here failsafe option is there, load to RAM is there, memory test is given. So memory test is important. Sometimes suppose your RAM is malfunctioning or the ISO there is some issue, you can use this memory test. So we will boot with the Debian live 32-bit option, first option. So it looks very quite fast. Okay, so the Debian live 32-bit ISO comes with the default XFCE desktop. So you can see here the XFCE desktop has loaded up. I don't see much change between the Debian XFCE desktop default and the Debian. So at least on the first looks, it doesn't look different. Only this wallpaper, you can see it here. It is there. It is different. Then you have got options for smaller fonts, larger fonts, and there are some readme text and the release notes for the Chimera release. That is. So now we will start with the actual installer. Let us start the Debian Refracta installer. So this utility will install a running live CD or live USB to your hard disk. This is a free software that comes with no warranty or guarantee of any type, including but limited to express implied merchantability or the fitness of purpose. So copyright belongs to F. Smith Red and is based on Refracta installer 8.0.3 by Dean Linkus. So Dean Linkus is the developer of this installer software. So now let us continue. So if you want to go through the help file first before we start the installation, you have to click here, but we will continue with the installation. Now there are some options to choose for the installation. So create a new separate home partition, create a separate boot partition, create using swap partition is no, we will go with the swap file, we will not create the swap partition. Encrypt the root system with or without separate boot. Encrypt the home partition with separate home required, yes. We will go with write random data to encrypted partitions, more secure, yes. We will write zeros to all partition, no, we will not do that. We will not format the file systems manually, let the system handle it. We will use UUID in fstab encrypt tab. We will not use file system labels, dislabel to etc fstab, disable automatic login to desktop, disable automatic login to console, SV init only, and we will not move the directories to separate partitions. So the pre-installed scripts like the location time zone script will run automatically, and the post-install script like cleanup install and the cleanup RC local will also execute automatically. Now it is showing us some summary of the partitions available right now. So I had done some trials with the installer earlier, so those partitions are being shown, so we will not check out those things. So we will just completely reformat the disk. So I will close this. Now we have to run the gparted. So what I will do is I will just delete everything that is done earlier during my trials. We have to now create a new partition. Okay, so first we will have to apply the pending operations. Okay, so all the partitions have been done. So now we will close this. We will create a new partition table with the MS-DOS type partition table, and there are other options also available. We will go with the MS-DOS. So first we will use a 500 MB. We can go with 300 also. MS-DOS will work with a lesser size of boot partition, and go with extended 4 file system, extended 2, 3. So there are a lot of options available here. We can go with extended 4 also, because we are not going to install Windows. If Windows installation is there, then you have to use the FAT32 only, else the Windows will not be able to read the extended 4, 3 or 2 partitions. So we will go with extended 4 and label it as boot partition. Now next is the root partition. So we will create the root partition. Let us go with around let us go with the 10,000 MB. So that will be the root partition. And now this remaining 14 GB we can go with or we can, what we can do is we can resize this and increase it to 14. We require more space for the system. Okay, so it is now 13.67 GB root partition. Rest of the memory we can allocate to the home partition. Let us further increase this. I am not say I want more size for the, let us now resize this. Yes, now 7 GB for the home partition is good enough. So we will now create a home partition. Let it be also extended 4 only. So 300 MB, 17.58 GB, and the new partition, that is the home, with 7.13 GB. So this is the partitions that we are going to create. Now you have to apply this. You have to save the details here, gparted details as a HTML file, close, and you have to close the gparted also. Now choose the MBR to install to the MBR of any disk. So we will install the MBR to the hard disk. So now it will ask us where to install the MBR. So select the partition for /boot. So we are going to use the first partition. And which type of file system? We will use extended 4. Choose the partition for installation of the operating system. We will use the VDA2, that is the second partition for the root partition, and use the extended 4 only for that partition. Third partition will be /home or the home partition, and we will again use the extended 4 only for that partition. So please close any running applications now. Here is the summary of what is to be done. Bootloader will be installed to the Dev VDA. Operating system will be on the VDA 2 formatted extended 4 and will be encrypted. Home will be installed on the Dev VDA 3 and formatted extended 4 and will be encrypted. So boot and root file system or the operating system is going to be encrypted. Boot will be installed on the VDA 1 and formatted extended 4. Desktop auto login is disabled. Console auto login is disabled. UUIDs will be used in the tab. Dev mapper name will be used in fstab. Pre-install scripts are enabled. Post-install scripts are enabled. If the installation if it seems like the installer stopped, check the terminal for messages. So you have got the terminal in the background. You have to check the messages here. So I will just keep it here and we will keep the installer here. And now we can start with the installation. So you have to keep a watch on the terminal also. So proceed with the installer. Okay, so the installer window will close and we will go in the TUI mode. So you have to select the geographical area and now you have to go and select Calcutta. I will select Calcutta for me. You can do it any. I can even go with Delhi also, but I will go with Calcutta. Yes, Calcutta is. Now you have to select the local. So local, what I will do is we will go with the English India. Yes, English India UTF-8. Maybe there is another. No, UTF-8 is only available. So we will go with the UTF-8. I think. Okay. Yes, done. So the default local for a system C UTF-8, ENUS UTF-8. Okay. So two will be selected. You have to select between the two locals. So we will hit the tab. Okay. Generic 105 key PC international. Yes, we will go with this. It works. Keyboard layout. Let us check out if anything else. No. So we will have to stick right now with the English US keyboard and later on we will change it to the Indian keyboard layout. The default for the key to function as alter group. So default for the keyboard layout, we will keep this only. No compose key. Multi-key causes the computer to interrupt the next few keystrokes as a combination in order to produce a character not found on the keyboard. So we'll go with the no compose key. Combination of control alter backspace does nothing. If you want, you can be used to terminate the X server. So let us go with it. Control alter backspace. Control alter backspace. Yes, backspace is there. Okay, we will go it to terminate the X server. So now it will do the formatting of the partitions we have created in the gparted. Let us see how the installer goes ahead with the installation. We have given all the options that were required to do a successful installation. Maybe time to time it will ask us for some inputs further. So you can see here how the installation is going ahead. Writing to VDA 2, no space left on the device. Okay, let us see what happens. So what exactly it is doing is it is writing random data to the your root partition or the VDA2. So it will first secure the partition by rendering random data, and then it will encrypt the partitions. So partitions are already there. It is first writing random data to the partition, and then the encryption of the partition will take place. So it will secure the partitions. So boot partition is not encrypted. Only the root partition and the home partition are encrypted. So those two will be encrypted. So now you have to enter the passphrase for the encrypted drive. So we will use the standard this password. I am using it for all my installations. So I use one password for the encrypted drives, and one password for all my installations. So it has accepted the simple password. Many systems are configured not to accept the simple password. Then we have to do something else. Yes. So now the okay. So there is separate password for the home. So it is even more secure than earlier what we have seen. So in some earlier operating systems, we have seen only one passphrase for the home as well as the root, but here there is separate passwords for the home and the root. But anyway, I will use the same password, so I don't need to remember it much. But you will of course take advantage of this and have a separate passphrase for home and the root partitions. So that's it. Now the actual installation of system will start. The encryption I think is done for the root and the home partitions, and now installation of the Debian has started. Installation looks very fast to me. Copying of files to the new partition, root partition is going on. Okay, so now the installation of bootloader will start. So we have option to change root, which will open a XTerm in the change rooted installation for custom work. So we are not going to do any custom work, so this option is not required. We will just proceed ahead to install the bootloader. So if you don't install the bootloader, then we will require to boot this Debian installer using some other way. And if you abort, the installation will be aborted. So here you can see a complete summary of the file system that is now installed. So udev, you can see it here. Temporary file system is that /run mounted on /run. Dev sr0 run. So this loop and sr are from the ISO. So those installation ISO, that is the live ISO, and these are the partitions of the live ISO that are mounted. Overlay / temporary file system run lock dev shm. So there are some temporary file systems, run user 1000, and the dev mapper root file system. So this is the actual installation root system. Dev mapper home file system. So that is the target home or the home partition, and dev vda is the target boot. So you can see here how much is used by the system after the installation. So once the installation is now almost complete, 25% of the target root partition has been used by the system for the installation. Similarly, the home partition only 1% is used, and the dev vda, that is the boot partition, 21% has been used. So our partitioning is very done precisely. You can go with the same size of partitions if you want, if you have got a 25 GB hard disk. And so if you have got a 256 GB hard disk, you have to increase the partition size in the same proportion as you have increased the hard disk size. So we can keep the ratio proportion same, and we can continue to do the custom partitions like I have shown you in the video. So now you have to install the bootloader. There is option to change root. You can abort and you can continue. So we will go with the install bootloader option. So now you can see here in the terminal it is showing that it is installing the bootloader. Once the bootloader finishes installation, the complete installation will finish. I will stop the video, and in the next video we will check out the XFCE desktop that was installed using the live desktop ISO in this video. And we will check out how the partitions were done. We will check out the gparted also again during the desktop review of the XFCE desktop. Now you have to configure the hostname and username. So if you remember, this was pending. So till this time, the system did not ask us to create any username or hostname. So now it is asking us to create the hostname. So in Debian installer, the Debian is the default hostname. Here Debian is the default hostname, and new username. So if you don't give the new username, default will be Debian. So what we will do is we will use the username Sam, new user's real name. So we will keep this blank. Permit sudo for the new user and keep root account. Use sudo as the default for the new user. So if we create a root account, then what will happen is the system will be further secured. So there will be multiple tiers. First, the encrypted root and home partitions are there. Further on top of that, the root account is also there. So it will create multiple layers of security. Let us go with separate root account, and there is option use sudo only for shutdown and keep root account. So what we will do is we will permit sudo for the new user and keep root account. We will use sudo as default for the new user and disable the root account. So we will not disable the root account. Let us keep the root account also. So root password, I will use the same one that I use every time. So use current password. No, it's not recommended. So we will go ahead with a new password. Now the user password, you have to set it. That's it. So we have created a very secure system, and you see immediately the host name and username along with the root password and the root user password have been configured. The complete installation is complete, and we can now boot it into the new system. So you have to remember to remove your installation media. So what I will do is, now we will close this. The system may reboot, but I will stop the video here. In the next video, we will check out the XFCE desktop that was installed in this video using the live desktop ISO. Bye bye.